Welcome everybody to Forza Horizon 4, and today we're taking a look at the 2012 Eagle Speedster. Now this car is basically a reimagining of the E-Type, if you will, as it's, got plenty of extra modern features on it, but it's keeping the kind of classic body and style that you would expect an E-Type to look like if it was, rebuilt today in today's standards. So yeah, it's still got the classic body with the classic curves, so it's classic headlights, the grille, etc. Still got the wide wheels, a low slung cockpit, plenty of leather inside, and yeah, it's also got a completely exposed exhaust and no real bumpers either. So yeah, quite classic in that regards, but underneath it's anything but. And the first reason for that is the engine. Now, yeah, it is a 4.7 litre inline 6, which is kind of old school, but it is obviously a new engine, and it produces 330 horsepower and 360 pounds-feet of torque, so way more than any E-Type could ever imagine to produce from the 60s and early 70s, to be honest. And because this car only weighs 2,330 pounds, means that it can pretty much really shift, even though that horsepower rating is pretty modest compared to other more modern cars of the day, to be honest. And yeah, it's also got more modern tyres, brakes, suspension, and yeah, that makes it also a more fun car to drive as well. But it's also kept things simple. It's only got rear-wheel drive. It's got no real electronics involved. It's got no turbocharging or supercharging or anything like that. It's just, as simple as possible, but having plenty of detail in there at the same time, like the chopped windscreen, for instance, and the slats on the bonnet, and the fact that the bonnet itself is just one big piece. You don't see that kind of thing anymore. It's, more of like 60s cars more than anything, from the last few years or so. But nonetheless, let's get out there and see what it can do. So, because I've been able to keep the weight down by keeping things simple, it means that they don't have to have, major technological advances to make this car quick. So yeah, we obviously don't have a turbocharger or anything. We don't have a carbon fibre tub like other sports cars might well have. And yeah, we've not had to go to those kind of extremes to make this car lightweight and therefore fairly fast for a car that only has 330 horsepower. So yeah, acceleration 0 to 60 in 4.815 seconds, 0 to 110.6 seconds, and it will do 169 miles an hour. Now, yeah, that's fairly good, quite frankly. Anything below 5 seconds for a modern sports car is always good. And yeah, the fact that, this is as quick as the likes of something like an Alfa Romeo 4C, which granted is slightly quicker to 60 by 0.4185 seconds, but this matches it for 0 to 100 time, and also is quicker at the top end. And that car's had to have like turbocharger on it and a carbon fibre tub, and take lightweightness to the extreme, to the point that, it's hardly the most practical of cars, whereas this, yeah, it only has one passenger seat, but it has a reasonable sized boot, and yeah, at the same time it's this gorgeous looking car, which is a perfect balance between, classic styling and design and modern engineering and capabilities. Because yeah, it's just, that kind of car that you always want. Everyone can pretty much admit that, cars from the 60s, 70s, etc. were far better looking than a lot of cars are today. But a lot of people also admit that cars from those days were also quite unreliable, not always all that quick, and somewhat unpredictable in terms of handling. But with this, with its modern upgrades, some modern suspension, brakes, etc., it doesn't roll around, it stops fairly well, and yeah, it's also still really, really good fun to drive. It's kind of like classic kind of fun, really, because yeah, it's only rear-wheel drive, and that means that you can really stick the tail out when the mood takes you. So yeah, really, really do like this car, and I'm glad it's back from the original Forza Horizon. It's been that long since we've had this car, and yeah, it's high time that this car was also included in a Forza Motorsport game, because I imagine it's fairly fun track car as well, even if, you know, it's not going to be as quick as some of its modern rivals. But yeah, glad it's on the game, and yeah, such a beautiful car, deserves to be in such a game that has such amazing graphics, quite frankly, and yeah, this car's not looked any better in any other video game, quite frankly. So yeah, highly recommend you go out and get it. It is well worth the money that it is on here. I think it's 550,000 credits, but quite frankly it's worth more than that as far as I'm concerned, because it's such a cracking car. Classic styling, classic kind of handling fun, but without any of the disadvantages of a classic car. And yeah, that's pretty much the perfect recipe for a sports car, quite frankly. You can't do any better than that. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.